I want to take another example. I don't know if I saw this in the movie or saw you talk about it somewhere else. And this is another extreme, like the pig thing as well, which I really think gets people's attention because they'll come in thinking, well, it has to be this way. And I think when you explain it, they'll start to see it in both ways. I think you were talking to the parents of a daughter who had overdosed. I don't know if this is in the movie or not. I don't know if this is ringing a bell. And everyone was celebrating her life and mourning her life as this, a void that could never be filled. And I think you sat down with the parents and were audacious enough to ask, well, what were the bad things about her? What don't you miss about her? Because she couldn't have been this angel. And so there must be something in here that maybe is the opposite of polarity of celebrating. And maybe we should also realize that there are some bad things about her that we're glad are no longer here. And I don't know if it was in the movie, but I know people heard this and they were like, how dare he ever ask this question about someone, a daughter or a son that has died, through this, overdose thing. How could you ever dare look and say, was she a bad person? Because she couldn't be, clearly. Tell me if I'm getting this story right and talk about how you're trying to see the opposite polarity here.
Yeah, well, I'll just share in generics first. If you're in a relationship, the first few weeks or months, you might be fooled into thinking there's more advantages and disadvantages, more positives and negatives, more pluses than minuses. But slowly but surely, they surface. And you start to thinking, oh my God. And then you start to question, can I endure all these things? And do I love them enough to embrace all this? And you eventually discover they have things you like and dislike. You ask anybody who's married for 60 years, can you rattle off the positives and the negatives of this person? They can rattle both of them. There's no question. And you can also resent somebody, and then over time you can discover the upsides to them. So when we're fooled by an infatuation or resentment, we're not seeing the whole, we're choosing with our bias to see one side. And of course, we're trapping ourselves because now we're going to fear the loss of what we're infatuated with. We're going to fear the gain of what we resent. The more polarized we are, the more fear we live in. The fear of loss and fear of gain. Fear of loss of, and by the way, that leads to eating disorders. When you fear the loss of something you want, you create ghrelin, which is an eating hormone to make you want to eat, makes you more hungry. And when you have something to avoid something you don't want, you get leptin to shut down the hunger. And so you create these gyrations based on the perceptions of stresses. I ask people, how many of you found when you're stressed you overeat? Half the room at least. And then I ask, how many of you undereat? And sometimes the same people or the other half. Because we do that because of the type of stress that we're perceiving. So when we realize that that's not who these people are, that's the perception we have temporarily, then we can go and ask if you're actually infatuated with somebody and they die, you're going to grieve their loss. When Donald Trump got out Soleimani, the Iranian general, the people in America celebrated his death because he was considered a villain, a terrorist. 5 million people came out and celebrated with grief in Iran because he was a hero there. So he was a hero in Iran and he was a villain here. We celebrated his death and go, finally. And over there, they mourned his death because they had more positives and negatives. They mourned, and we had more negatives and positives. We celebrated. So we have relief when we see more negatives and positives when somebody dies. We have grief when we see more positives and negatives when they die. So grief and relief are two poles of a magnet, like philia and phobia, positive and negative. And when you put them together and balance the equation, out comes love. And when you have love, you feel present with the person. So when I take people through the grief process, which I've been developing, I started developing it in 76 and 84. I've been clinically doing it, over 5,000 cases of grief. Nobody has to grieve on this planet more than 3 hours. And that's shocking to people to do. And I've done demonstrations of repeatedly and been on television and radio and under Keio University research, and it has not failed on the process. Because it's not, when you pass, you don't want people to be grieving on people you love. You want them to live their life to the fullest.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a selfish act to sit there and grieve, and you're basically telling people that you were infatuated with parts and you're bearing the parts you resented, that you didn't like. If I go in there and find out what are the downsides to the traits you admired,
Investment Club. Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical, magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.
And the upsides to the traits you despise, and bring those back into balance, and show you the new forms in which the traits are now in your life. I can dissolve your grief. And people go, whoa, 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 whoa. But I thought it's healthy to grieve. No, prolonged grief syndrome causes cardiovascular, immune system dysfunction. Some cancers are associated with it. I could go on the downsides of prolonged grief. So we're not supporting people by prolonging their grief, as some people do and some therapists even do. We're actually liberating them by helping them get present and face the truth that life has both life and death in it. And your body is living and dying 24 hours a day. It's got mitosis, apoptosis. It's got reduction and oxidation. It's got metabolism that's made out of anabolism and catabolism. There's always building and destroying going on. And life is that way. And if we're not prepared for that, we live in a fantasy and then we end up making grief. If we're resenting somebody, we actually go, oh, they deserve it.
Both are not healthy.
Both of those cause illness. They prolong illness. So we go around and there's people, when the 9/11 occurred, there were certain people, according to what I've seen on YouTube, what's true, I don't know. But on there were some people celebrating that collapsing of the buildings because they didn't like America. They were celebrating it. Other people were mourning it. So the people that were infatuated with it mourned it, and the people that resented what it stood for were celebrating. So grief and relief are 2 sides of one magnet. And if you balance out the magnet, you can transcend both. And when you do, you feel love. And when you do, you feel the presence of the individual. And you're thankful for while they were alive, and you're thankful for their passing, because who are you to decide when they were supposed to go? If we're comparing it to when we think it should have been, then our fantasy, we're depressed and angry because it's not matching our fantasy. The way they went is the reality of what they went. That's when they go. That's the fact of life.
Now, what if you have a young child? This will be hard for parents to hear, and they're going to feel responsible regardless if they're a young child. And how can you say that there was some bad things there? This is so hard to find.
That's not true.
Tell me.
I've had many, many, many children that have passed away or had stillborns or young babies or whatever that have been killed. And sometimes car injuries. I had one woman that had 4 children in a car on her way to go to a mall, and a truck killed all 4 children. And she was now a mom in the morning and not a mom in the afternoon. And we took her through all 4 of them. So we think that that's going to make it some different because we get a lot of oxytocin and a lot of vasopressin, which are the 2 chemical compounds that we experience when we get grief. But the reality is that you can go in there and find out the other side, because a child, when a mother has a baby, there's 2 sides to the mother. She may not want to admit it, but the 2 sides of mother, the part that goes, oh, my baby, I'm so happy. And the other one goes, what's going to happen to my life? I'm not knowledgeable. I don't know what I'm doing, in some case, if it's a first baby. And what's going to happen to my career, my life, my relationship is there's both sides of that baby. And the day that baby's born, there's also, painful boobs, and there's long night hours, and there's 2 sides to raising a child. In fact, if you look really honestly, there's things you like and dislike in your own family. But if you ask people who've been married for any period of time and ask them, could you label things you like and dislike in your husband, they can rattle them off. And this is what I'm annoyed by, but this is what I stay in there for. If this one gets larger, they start to think this isn't working. If this gets larger, they're grateful for their having a relationship. But it oscillates back and forth. The same with children. And children feel the same way towards their parents. They're liking and disliking their parents and gyrating around their parents.
Right. It's just.
And when they're teenagers, you kind of wonder, maybe it's wise for them to go.
Time to go. But it's such like a politically incorrect thing to say that,
You just said it. It's a politically incorrect, it's a religiously incorrect thing.
Yeah.
But that's, as Machiavelli addressed in his time in The Prince, he said, what are you going to live? The truth of life, or are you going to be caught in the paradigms that are being indoctrinated?
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.